From flat earthers, it's NASA.
Then why are you saying flat earthers? Why are you saying
NASA?
Why whatever? Why are you being rude? Why are you going whatever?
Whatever. NASA.
I don't want to have a conversation with someone that says whatever. Don't whatever me then. Don't whatever me. I'm not a flat earther. I'm a globalist denier. So
I wasn't even talking to you.
I'm talking to you though. This is Speaker's Corner. I can talk to you if I want.
What's the difference?
Is this a group of people? Are you having a private conversation?
I wasn't speaking to you specifically.
Right. I'm here with these people that you're talking about. Okay, so that's why I interjected, but I wasn't rude. You went first. You went whatever.
Yeah,
you were being dismissive. Why were you being dismissive? I'm a human being and you're a human being. You're one of those people, aren't you? You're one of them whatever man.
What does that mean?
One of whatever man.
What does that mean? You were there.
Your kind of people. Rude individual. You're a rude individual. That dismissive. No, I'm not, man. No, I'm not. I hope you make yourself feel better. I don't need to stop. Man's getting rude. Man's getting rude. Are you
Don't film me. Don't film me.
all I want. Get in. I'll film you all I want. Prick. Yeah? Prick.
Hi YouTube, welcome to part 2 of Faking Flat 2. In this episode we take an in-depth look at Flat Earth street activist and organiser of the Globalist European tour, Roxanne the Globalist Denier. First, a quick look at Roxanne's journey so far. Straight out of London's Badlands, Roxanne began her reign of flat terror by making scientists an offer they can't refuse.
That unless we can gate crash and overthrow the scientific community, all of this is just going to go in circles like it has done for the last few hundred years. And I'm going for the scientific community. Me personally, and that's where I'm going. I'm going for them fuckers. I'm going for the fuckers that are lying so that they lie to our kids in school. Yeah, the education system. You reverse the education system all the way back. You reverse it right back to source. And it all comes from the scientific community, yeah, which comes from pre-approved, accredited scientists pushing through papers, having those papers accepted as fact, and then that fact that's bullshit being taught to the kids. So I'm going for that fucker. Targets on them for me. Yeah, I won't stop. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life doing this.
So Roxanne set off on a campaign of street activism, anxious to let the UK and Europe know that the Earth is flat.
If we just took for a second that we were a stationary plane, every country on this international flat plane of existence all agree to not let anybody pass the 60th parallel. Water always finds and seeks and maintains its own level. Everywhere that we can clearly see is observably flat. I proclaim to know the Earth's flat as well.
It's flat.
Do you believe the number of people that actually live on this flat plane of existence? The reason the Earth is clearly and observably flat is because the globe is alive. But we're not making any claims.
That sounded like a claim to me. Roxanne soon realised that the general public do not just believe big piles of internet bullshit as readily as she did, and that they might just dare to challenge the absurd and illogical fantasy that she thinks is real. So in classic flat earth fashion, she rebranded herself.
I think for someone that comes up to me thinking I'm a flat earther, that's misinformed. But believe it or not, that banner's not telling them the Earth's flat. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, definitely not a flat earther. No, there's no flat earth theorists, there's globe deniers. I'm a globalist denier. I'm a globalist denier, I'm not a flat earther. Yeah. I feel that the words flat earth and flat earthers have got negative connotations to them. People don't take you seriously as soon as you say the words flat earth. You see it for yourself, are you these crazy flat earthers? The Flat Earth Society have done a number out here, you know. This is something I'm going to talk about a lot more. The number the Flat Earth Society have done on the truth. They've done a real number on the truth. They've got a lot of people out here laughing at us because they think we're members of the Flat Earth Society.
Yes, that's why we're all laughing at you, Roxanne. This rebranding allows Roxanne to avoid any burden of proof and avoid hearing her fantasy challenged. Her current strategy is to pretend that she isn't a flat earther on the basis that she isn't pushing a model. She doesn't seem to have noticed that this makes her exactly the same as every other flat earther. Even though Roxanne holds the same beliefs as every other flat earther, is an active member of the YouTube Flat Earth community, promotes an app called the Flat Earth Sun and Moon app and a website called FE Start, parrots only standard crap from the Flat Earth meme as evidence, and regularly claims that the Earth is flat, she just can't get why people think she's a flat earther. Here she is with a team of flat earthers, including Jeranism, right after they spilled out of the Flat Earth European Convention.
It's not a good question, yeah? The reason this is what you're doing is you're making an assumption about what we are. We're not flat earthers. Do you know this? We're globe deniers, my friend. Yeah?
I've already done the research.
That's not research, bruv. You think we're flat earthers. I'm telling you, you're wrong. Look at our banners. It says the globe's alive.
Isn't the globe? What is it then? Who knows? It'd be great to find out, but we can show it's not a globe.
Okay, first thing he did was ask us if we were flat earthers, so that was a bit of a boo-boo. Okay, I should probably give you a disclaimer, okay? So what we are, is we are a claim that's been made, yeah? The claim that's been taught to you, to me, by school. Who teaches us at school? The Ministries of Education. So we have taken it upon ourselves to question the claim that's been made and look for supporting evidence for that claim. We've found there is no supporting evidence for the claim, therefore what we've been taught is a lie. Now to say flat earthers is a crazy claim. Do you know why? Because now the burden of proof is on that person. So you would need to find a flat earther here to have a conversation with. There are no flat earthers here. Do you know what that is? That's a psyop made by the Flat Earth Society, bruv. To make people look stupid. To make people think about a pizza dish in space. Mad, bruv. So I hope you've got some informed questions, because if you've got a load of flat earther questions, bruv, you should have found the Flat Earth Society to ask them to. It was the first question. He said, you flat earthers believe. I went, up, stop. So I'm sorry if I annoyed the chat room there, but I can't entertain foolishness. And he definitely didn't look at the banners or anything, and he thought he was going to talk to flat earthers.
I should also point out here that Flat Earth isn't the only conspiracy theory that Roxanne believes in.
All the world leaders, they're all puppets anyway. They're all working for a shadow government, and we all know that there's probably puppet masters, and most people walk around saying they're the Illuminati, but it's probably the elite families, whoever they are. Do you know what I mean? Weather engineering. Yeah.
The 9/11 thing.
The three most powerful bloodlines, the Rothschilds, the Soros, and the House of Saud. Chemtrails. Floella Benjamin.
Human depopulation.
She's been involved in that whole child trafficking madness.
Planet X. Nibiru.
You look at the currency and you think, where's that all going?
FEMA camps.
Big Pharma, yeah, bruv. The whole Brexit thing, bruv, I think it's just a guise, personally, for deep state. The Disney cruise ship, they're using them ships to traffic kids, you know. Like weather, geoengineering.
Staging events and stuff so that people die.
They're saying that anti-vax is a Russian bot thing. It's not. Have you looked into the Q movement?
False flag events, psyops.
Pizzagate's real. Apparently, the bloodlines are conspiracy. It's all a conspiracy. We're nuts. I don't know why we're not hearing tinfoil hats, to be honest with you.
Yep, if it's bullshit and it's online, Roxanne believes it. See if you can guess which source of online bullshit influences her flat earth argumentation.
You can't give me any evidence of curvature. But I know that if I have 5 ice creams and I give you 6, I can now say I'm left with -1. You absolutely can't give me any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core. If the Ministries of Education internationally are teaching a model in a partisan fashion, you also can't give me any evidence that we're orbiting anything, far less the sun. Do you understand? You're begging the question, sir. You can't give me any evidence that the sun's 93 million miles away. So you're begging the question that we're even spinning in the first place, but go on. No, stop there. No, because that's not scientific evidence. Oh my God. And then we want to go with the assumption of R. So the good thing I can tell you, there's a channel on YouTube called Sleeping Warrior, and he's a degree. Yeah, he's got a degree in law, and he has already started the engagement process in contacting Damien Hines, the Education Secretary. I've also kind of implored people to prove me wrong as well. I've kind of said, look, like, if you think this is wrong, if you think this isn't right, and you think like you know better, and you've got evidence that goes against, like then fine, bring it to us. We'll take a look and we'll eat our hats. But Here we are, X amount of years later, and nobody's got none. I see Nathan Oakley still looking for evidence of the claim.
No prizes if you realise that Roxanne is more than a bit of an Oakley tard. Even sharing the shouty twat's lunatic idea that they are entitled to have people deliver evidence to them. And the fact that the rest of humanity opted for going to work as opposed to having an ignorant moron slander and yell abuse at them is a good reason to believe that everyone else is wrong and she is right. In this clip, Roxanne aims to stump Speaker's Corner regular Pavlov with a killer question, but first she has to learn her lines.
Hey Sleeping Warrior, thank you for tuning in.
Look, even if you don't believe in the Coriolis effect, what it means in terms of quality of science is completely different from what you say.
Shall I ask the gas container pressure question? Shall I ask it? How do we have a gas container without a pressure? How do we have pressure without a gas container? What? Am I right? How do we have gas pressure without a container? Can I ask a quick? Sorry, excuse me. Can I ask a quick question? Just a quick question. It's regarding the Coriolis effect. I've got someone in my chat room. I've got quite a few ex-military in there as well. Quite a few people are saying that the Coriolis force only applies with a roundabout unless you can prove that we are actually spinning. Can you prove that we're spinning? Can you prove that the Earth is spinning? The Coriolis effect only applies to a roundabout. That, of course, unless you can prove that we're spinning. Can you prove that's based on? So you're begging the question that we're even spinning in the first place. But go on. You are, but go on. Fire away. Yeah. I've just chimed in and genuinely asked you a valid question. I'll interrupt all I want, thank you very much. If I don't agree with what you're saying and you're talking drivel, good for you. Didn't want to address it, actually. Yeah, didn't want to address it. Ooh. Doesn't like being interrupted. Can you see his notes? Yep, ego.
Interruption is a technique that Roxanne uses regularly. In the end, she opted for a question from the chat that she also didn't have a clue about. Here she is again trying to address the problem of the stars in the southern hemisphere, which usually her questioning mind is quite happy to pretend don't exist if the person she is talking to hasn't actually been to the southern hemisphere, even though southern circumpolar stars can be seen from the northern hemisphere. Of course, Roxanne hasn't got a clue about this, and unfortunately on this occasion she has bumped into someone who has been to the southern hemisphere. Note how when he poses his question, she looks straight to her friend Victor for help.
Oh, we've got the rotation of the stars, right? So you look up in the sky and throughout the night the stars rotate in the northern hemisphere, but the southern hemisphere has a different set of stars.
What's your evidence for that right now?
I've been to the southern hemisphere and I've seen it.
And you've seen what you think proves we're on a ball.
It's consistent with that information.
Can you explain that to me now?
Sure, exactly. So we're on this little ball that's moving, and it looks to us like the stars.
Explain to me how the southern star trails confirm to you that we're
on the because you're seeing a different set of stars in the southern hemisphere than the northern hemisphere.
And you don't.
If the Earth were flat, why would we see a different set of stars in the northern hemisphere versus the southern hemisphere?
So if I'm looking at this tree from this angle, the top of it.
I didn't get a chance to answer that. I was ready to answer that, and Victor just chimed in. Sorry about that, guys.
What's complicated about that? Remember the dome that they used to have in Madame Tussauds? I don't know if they still have it, the Sky Dome.
Yeah, I've never been.
You can participate too. So the gentleman just said, if we live on a flat plane, why do I see different stars in the southern hemisphere? As you know, this is something that we've gone over for the last 12 months. But if you really want to get involved, I will bring you into this conversation. So please put your answers in the chat room now. If we live on a flat plane, why do we see different stars in the southern hemisphere? So yeah, got a couple of minutes to give me some answers in the chat room, and I will happily read them out to this guy, and you can interact.
So, did you have an alternative explanation?
So,
about the stars?
my alternative explanation is it's all due to my relative position on the flat plane. And what I say about flat plane is I'm not prescribe into a model. I'm not going to push a model, but I know that we see things due to perspective, and we have a vanishing point, and that vanishing point is on the horizon. Now, when I go further towards the horizon, I will now see something different from you because I'm somewhere else on a flat plane. So I would say to you, looking up is not proof of what you're standing on.
Here is yet more Oakley tardery. This is a line Roxanne uses all the time.
And what I'm here saying is that there isn't any evidence of what we've actually been taught by the Ministries of Education. Right. We've been taught a model. I was taught what you was taught. But at school, they never said model. Right. At school, that was taught to me as like gospel. Like as much as they taught us about God. Yeah. They didn't ever say at the end of the lesson, now remember guys, this is a model, so just bear that in mind. And then I've gone older and I've been in school for like 16 years learning this. That's almost like a miscarriage of justice. If you're going to teach us a model, tell us it's a model. Some people, for their sanity, they need to have a model. And I respect that. I just can't push it. I can't go there with a model. For me, I feel like if I go there with a model, I may as well go back to the ball. Because there's one. It's not working, but it's a model. And I feel like if I do that, I'm just defeating the object of being awake in the first place. At least give me the damn choice. At least say, this is a model we're teaching you. You don't have to buy into it. We're going to give you an exam on it, but don't actually take it as gospel. Don't live and die believing you live on a spinning ball. But this is the best model we've got, and we're going to teach it to you. Just be a little bit more honest about it and not perpetuate it with propaganda and be partisan and make us believe it's true and then make us die believing that's true.
I don't know what Roxanne thinks a model in this context actually is. Probably she has been listening to Oakley's ignorant rantings on the subject. The aim of a model is to make a particular part or feature of the world easier to understand, define, quantify, visualize or simulate by referencing it to existing and usually commonly accepted knowledge. It requires selecting and identifying relevant aspects of a situation in the real world and then using different types of models for different aims, such as mathematical models to quantify or graphical models to visualize the subject. This is an example of a model many of us are familiar with. Every day since the 1930s, this model has accurately guided passengers of the London Underground to their destinations. Today, this amounts to 5 million journeys each day. A single simple model of the subway system which transcends language and learning levels so successfully it has been copied all around the world. The tube map does not show the actual routes of the lines, nor the actual distances between the stations, or in fact any other landmark or feature of London. It provides only the information that the passenger needs to know to get from any station on the network to any other station on the network by simply following colour-coded lines. The fact that some aspects of reality are not represented does not mean that this model is not founded in fact. The order of the stations and the lines on which they reside are accurate, and this data is delivered to the user quickly and clearly. We can add different data to the same model to provide the user with even more useful information. For those of us who don't drink our own piss, this version shows the stations with toilets, while this one indicates tourist attractions. This one includes live train data, allowing users to predict the arrival time of the next train. We can use a similar graphical model to represent a different set of data altogether. This time the store locations of two supermarket chains, upmarket Waitrose and discount chain Lidl. The lines here are fictional, so you may think this model is pretty useless. However, to anyone familiar with London and its actual tube map, this model delivers a profound graphical representation of the economic disparity that exists in areas side by side within our capital city. A couple more examples. This version is a conceptual model, providing a view of how the network is expected to look by the year 2040, based on current and planned expansions. The same data is used here in a different kind of model. This one takes the actual geographical positions of the lines and models them in 3D. Roxanne likes to refer to the heliocentric model, which outside of flat Earth is a term usually only used in an historical context. Within Flat Earth, it seems to refer to the mainstream consensus understanding of the universe. Just like our subway examples, this model is founded in observable facts, i.e. the relative positions of the celestial bodies and their observed motions. It allows us to make predictions about not just how these bodies will move, but how celestial objects we have never come across before will move when they become visible to us. It cannot tell us everything about the universe, but it provides an accurate basis for us to learn more about the universe and to engineer devices to increase our understanding still further. Finally, I think it's important to mention that ideas about the shape of the Earth did not change with heliocentrism. The shape of the Earth had been known since ancient Greece, almost 2 millennia before Copernicus put quill to parchment. As well as Oakley's nonsense about models, Roxanne also thinks that an idiot dropping an egg into a glass of salty water has debunked 300 years of accumulated knowledge in the field of physics. To accommodate this idea, she has revised history.
There is actually scientific. Can I finish? There's science. So you've gone for Newtonian, not Einsteinian, yeah? You're gonna slide to the Newtonian. You're gonna go for that version. Right. So where I'm coming from is I'm saying to you, there is observable, measurable, repeatable, scientific evidence of relative density. Okay. Relative buoyancy and density kind of worked for everything before any gravity came into it. An apple falling out of a tree and one person writing a book and an entire civilization getting educated on it is not good enough. Density and buoyancy before gravity came along explained everything. The reason gravity came out, it was the missing link for why water conforms to a ball. Once the Principia Mathematica was written, that missing link was niched, and there we have it. 500 years ago, Sir Isaac Newton wrote the Mathematica Principia, and that was pushed out to all governments, all institutions, all educational factions internationally.
We don't need to worry though, Roxanne has provided humanity with a new replacement for gravity.
And for me personally, I'm okay with not using gravity at all and just calling everything relative density.
Relative density.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Yeah, works for me all the time. People may have an issue because of force. Force is exerted, but I would say independent movement is fine. Yeah, that's an okay scenario for me. Birds move independently, you move independently, I move independently, I can drive a car to move independently. That tree will move when the wind blows. So my reasoning for that is the apple didn't fall from the tree because of gravity. The apple fell off the tree because it became too dense for the twig that was holding it, so the twig had to let go. Obviously the apple is more dense than the air around it, so it will sink to the bottom of whatever it is, but nothing is pulling it. It's just the fact that it's moving through what's less dense than it. It would cause its own motion to do that. So if we just took for a second that we were a stationary plane, that there's no need to bring gravity into the equation at all. Once upon a time, there was no need for humans. Humans had perfect explanations for things before gravity came. Relative density was pretty much it. Everything was relative to what it was in. And to this day, you know, if someone jumps out a window, they're going to hit the floor because they're more dense than the air around it. And speed is what would stop that. That's why a plane is able to stay up. That's why the birds can't go that high, because it will get so high that the air around it becomes so thin it can't fly fast enough. I feel like if we're going to talk about gravity, I'd rather know what gravity we're talking about. We're talking about Newtonian or Einsteinian, because one of them is not even used anymore. And it's quite funny, at the university that we debated at, they used the one that wasn't even used anymore, which we thought was a bit of a schoolboy error, but you will have people that are using gravity, versions of gravity, they're not even the current science. So if we're using things that aren't used as current science for our basis of argument for what we're taught, my statement is, if what we were taught was so accurate, we shouldn't even be able to have a discussion. The discussion shouldn't even be entertained, but it is entertained because there are some muddy waters with what we've been taught. Yeah. It's a shame. And I don't think anyone, you know, that's saying shooting the messenger. I think everyone that has this message does so with a little bit of a heavy heart, because it's like, really, if we're going to question some of the things that we took as a given, then buckle up, because it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, if you know what I mean.
Roxanne has completely bought into Sleeping Warrior's mischaracterization of gravity, believing that there are two types, Newtonian and Einsteinian, and that one of these is no longer used. The trouble is, Roxanne doesn't know which one this is supposed to be. In Riley's delusional version, Newtonian gravity has been superseded by Einsteinian.
Talking about gravity there, right? And you're talking about how it needs to be strong enough to hold the oceans, correct? And then you're saying, but it's weak enough to have birds fly. Is that correct? And what I'm saying. So I just think that for me, like something I justify that with is something that I believe supports the fact that.
Can you tell me what gravity you believe in? No, because you're using gravity. I'm really interested in this. So, what gravity are you talking about?
The gravity that I was taught in school.
Which is?
What do you mean? Gravity,
So,
like Isaac Newton, was the.
Right, and is that the gravity you're referring to?
Yes, I am. Yes.
At least you know. A lot of people give me this program response, and they're not even aware that there's two types.
Yeah, for sure,
one that's not used and one that is used.
Yeah.
And a lot of people bring up the one that's not used. Can you believe that? I'm talking grown-ass adults, people that are in their 40s. Their main proof for gravity is the gravity that's not even used.
But I definitely think that.
This isn't the only contradictory position Roxanne seems to hold.
So people you know, so you're asking me to take your personal word for it, and what's that supposed to mean? So because you're saying they're in the military, I've got to accept what you're saying is fact, and because you've been in the military, you're telling me I live on a spinning ball, and that's some kind of authority that I should believe. I've also got people that are ex-military in the chat room that are actually discrediting what this guy is saying, so it's quite interesting to see ex-military completely discrediting the Coriolis effect. I'm still yet looking for some evidence of what you claim to be true. So, but
I'm glad for you. I'm glad for you. It's a good faith that you have.
I don't have a faith.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't, my darling. No.
And
I know you need to make that okay for you. That's why you're forcing it on me. You're forcing it on me. I've been walking on a path for about 3 years. I am religious. I was brought up as a Christian. I have faith in the fact that we were created. I have faith in the fact that we have a Most High. So are your thoughts your own? Answer the question, guys. Are your thoughts your own? Are your thoughts your own, or are they what you've been taught?
Well, we have experts. That's why we have experts. Exactly.
So you're part of the problem, my friend. You're part of you believe the experts. You believe in the experts.
Do you believe in expertise?
Do you believe in experts that have been indoctrinated?
Paid.
In fact, some people from universities, some lecturers, some learned individuals, study of life.
I'm a qualified pharmacist. I teach at universities. I've researched this. I entered this.
Because I've made land-based observations with lasers with learned individuals that've got more letters after their name than their actual name itself. So I'm not a learned individual myself, but I have collaborated over the last 18 months with an incredible amount of learned individuals that have all shown me that's not accurate.
Roxanne tells us she isn't a learned individual, and she works hard to maintain this status. Here she is in an encounter with a Speaker's Corner regular dubbed the Troll, because he knows what he's talking about, with her willful ignorance turned up to number 11, not learning stuff.
And then one of them said to me, well look, if there's a space station up there, in that particular part of the ionosphere or whatever it's in, the temperature is 1100 degrees centigrade. How that's made of aluminium, which melts at a far lower temperature than that, doesn't it melt? And I didn't have the answer to that, and I'm meant to be a team scientist. But I went home and I kind of did my research and I checked it out, and it's actually really simple. But the higher you get, the closer you get to a vacuum, the less atoms there are, and it's atoms that need to interact and produce liquid gases and fluids. So even though technically the atoms that are up there are heated to that temperature, there's not enough of them to interact with any body.
Another argument.
That sounds like a long story to me, my friend.
But that's science. That's the science.
That's the indoctrination.
The limited length of Roxanne's attention span was clearly visible there, and in this next clip.
One of the people watching wants to know, can you ask, where are the stages in between evolution and why do chimpanzees still exist?
Okay, the stages. Okay, I'll answer the second question. Why do you jump?
Are you alright with your voice being on there at least?
Yes.
Yeah?
Basically, chimpanzees still exist because they're a different species from us.
Can you hear him, by the way? Just let me know in the chat room. Carry on talking.
Yeah. So basically, chimpanzees have what we're saying is humans are not chimpanzees. Humans did not evolve from chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are a different species from humans. They belong to a different genus or a clade. That clade is like a taxonomic way of classifying different organisms. And also, what biologists say, and paleontologists and anthropologists and so forth, what we say is we have a common ancestor with chimpanzees, and that and molecular evidence such as neutral mutation rates.
This guy clearly knew what he was talking about and went on to give a full explanation of evolutionary principles. He was polite and kind throughout, even in the face of Roxanne's juvenile sniggering and her moronic misunderstanding of evolution. His reward for his effort?
Like, why don't you believe in human evolution?
Because I know I'm not going to a zoo to go and visit my cousins. It's not happening. If we evolved, we would have brought them with us. It's not happening. We wouldn't be going. No, I wouldn't be paying to go and watch them in a cage. I wouldn't be watching things and being told they're going extinct if we evolved from them. It's just no. I can't buy into that.
That's different.
Yep, a continued moronic misunderstanding of evolution. This nah approach to argumentation is one that Roxanne relies on a lot.
Okay. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So how do you explain moonset and sunset, moonrise and sunrise?
I don't need to.
You don't need to.
No.
For example, the phone you use.
No.
Why do you think the United States?
No, couple scientists have tried to argue that with me, and I've shut them down on it. So no. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not thanking no space agency for my phone. It's not happening.
No.
Satellites, yeah, those things that are up there, they're held up there by balloons. They're high altitude balloons, yeah.
It's where the light rays are bent going through the atmosphere.
Yeah. So
there's a guy on the east coast of Lake Michigan can see Chicago, but he's
It's a mirage. It's a mirage. It's a mirage.
It's a mirage because it's the light being bent by the atmosphere. Isn't that right?
No. That's really not right. No.
This aversion to learning often leads Roxanne to say all sorts of stupid shit. Here are some of her delusional thoughts on space.
And with them telling us that we've got the vacuum space beside the atmosphere that we're in, it's pressurised, and there's just this magic shit called a membrane, and that's just no. It's just no. It's just, you know when you just kind of in your head there's a voice going, no, and we're going to press the X button on that one. There's no proof of it. None. There's no proof of anybody going past the Van Allen radiation belt, which is low Earth orbit, inside a dome. Do you know what the biggest thing we've got from space agencies is?
Satellites.
No. None of them exist, bro. No. Trust me. I don't want you to waste your time even thinking those things exist. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's told everyone that we're on an oblate spheroid. So why are NASA still pumping out circle pictures? Okay, it's a theory though, you did quote that yourself, it's still a theory.
A theory does not mean it's not a scientific truth.
But lack of evidence doesn't mean there's a lack of evidence, does it? We've had people thousands of years ago navigate themselves over the seas with the stars. If we're spinning through space and space is expanding and we're spinning around the sun, why have we still got the same stars in our sky than we've had for thousands of years? Why does Polaris never move? You know when they did one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. They got off and they got back on and they took off. In that shot where it takes off, there's a camera shot. It's like, no, you left no one behind who took the shot. You didn't have the technology to do that back then, guys. Like, you tried to do a little bit of Hollywood on it and you kind of overkilled it, and now the continuity doesn't match, you know? Have you ever watched the thing called Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon? I'm gonna give you a solid fact of the one thing, and one biggest thing. Two big things you can thank the space agencies for. Do you know what that is? You don't, or you do? Teflon in your frying pan, yeah, and Velcro. That's it, bro. That's it. That's all they've got. That's all she wrote. That's all she wrote. Velcro and Teflon. Nothing else. Just try and research what they've given us. Nothing.
If Roxanne had followed her own advice here and actually bothered to check if this popular misconception had any truth, she would have found this NASA webpage stating that Teflon, Velcro and Tang are not spin-offs of the space program. Teflon was invented in 1938 although its use in kitchenware started in the early 1960s, coinciding with the early space program, where it was also used in heat shields and spacesuits. Similarly, Velcro was invented in 1941 and became commercially available in the late 1950s. It was also used in the space program for anchoring equipment, including astronauts' boots to the floor of the Apollo lunar module. This is a good example of the anti-humanist nature of flat Earth belief. Everything that has been achieved and learned from 60 years of space exploration completely denigrated by an ignoramus parroting a silly meme. Roxanne is campaigning for this sort of stupidity to become socially acceptable. The purpose of the various space programs is to explore space, that is to engineer spacecraft and their necessary infrastructure and use them to learn about the universe. Reasonable adults do not judge the success of these endeavours on the basis of the number of handy household appliances they generate, even if they mean that Roxanne doesn't have to learn how to tie her shoelaces. The problem I face as a video producer here is how to convey what the space programs have actually given to humanity in a short enough time to fit this video. So here are just 10 space spin-offs for you to pause and read if you wish. LASIK laser eye surgery technology, cochlear implants, artificial limbs, space blankets, improved highway safety, improved radial tyres, temper foam, enriched baby food, portable cordless vacuums, a landmine removal system, and tracking of endangered animals. And here are just 10 of hundreds of space missions which have produced significant scientific understanding. The Apollo lunar landings, the pinnacle of human exploration, exponentially expanding our knowledge of the Moon and the origins of the Earth and the solar system. The International Space Station. In 19 years, 239 individuals from 19 countries have visited the International Space Station, conducting 2,700 research investigations from researchers in more than 103 countries. The Hubble Space Telescope has made more than 1.3 billion observations, resulting in more than 15,000 scientific papers, making it one of the most productive scientific instruments ever built. Voyager 1 and 2, launched in 1977 and still transmitting data today, the two Voyager probes have now left our solar system and have revealed unknown details about each of the 4 gas giants and their moons. Cassini-Huygens revolutionised our understanding of Saturn, its rings and moons. The Huygens lander landed on Saturn's moon Titan. Mars Science Laboratory and Curiosity rover has spent 7 years investigating the habitability of Mars, its climate, geology and the role of water. The Curiosity rover is seeking evidence of organics, the chemical building blocks of life. New Horizons collected data on the atmosphere, surfaces, interiors and environments of Pluto and its moons, helping us to understand the transformation of the early solar system. Juno has given us stunning images of Jupiter and its moons, and has studied Jupiter's core, magnetic field, aurora, and measured water and ammonia to help us understand the evolution of Jupiter. Rosetta studied and photographed Comet 67P and deployed its Philae probe to land on the comet, the first time in history that such an extraordinary feat has been achieved. The Kepler Space Telescope, during its 9.5 years of service, Kepler observed 530,000 stars and detected 2,662 exoplanets. There are of course many more. I could make a whole video series just on this subject. Just getting things wrong isn't enough for Roxanne. Our warrior for truth is quite happy to flat out lie when it suits her.
And I know pilots too have spoken and interviewed many of them that don't actually account for the curve.
No, I mean high flying ones that used to go in spy planes.
Yeah, we've interviewed some of them. We have, and a lot of them have gone on and gone on record to say that they don't account for curvature.
Believe it or not, Roxanne has not interviewed pilots of spy planes.
If all of this is legit, then at 20 miles there should be a drop of that. Yeah? According to them, not me. I'm just copying and pasting their crap and putting it here. This is their information, not mine. Yeah? They say at 20 miles you shouldn't be able to see certain things at a certain height because of curve. Yes?
Roxanne is referring to this curvature table, which shows drop and not hidden values, contains mathematical errors, and was made by flat earther Brian Mullin. It even has his name on it.
You're taught that model, and you're given the same images that this man makes for NASA and the space agency. So in your textbooks, they're going to give you composite images that are data. They're not real world images, and you're taught a model. Killer one is his. You can look him up, by all means. Take a picture of it, take his name, look him up. That's particular one. Data. And he says it's Photoshop, and then his work, but it has to be. It's not, he says it's Photoshopped, but it has to be because he's not working with image pictures in the first place. He has to create them. He has to.
Robert Simmons' blue marble is made from 40,000 photographs of Earth, and not from data in the sense that Roxanne means. And this is not the reason it has to be photoshopped. Check out my video Balls of Blue for more on this. If you choose not to believe Roxanne's made up bullshit, she can get quite cross.
So the Earth is flat, the principle is imagine it's all concrete.
Okay.
So there are certain places in the world like Salt Lake, flat lakes, you can go around like that, 360, it's flat, you said that.
Yeah.
But the higher I went in Concorde, it started to curve.
It doesn't.
It's funny that I've got Polaroids from Concorde. I flew Concorde as well when I was younger. We've got Polaroids of Flat Horizon, so...
A flat horizon? Well,
yeah.
no, did you remove the window?
No, my darling, we had a Polaroid camera with us and we took Polaroids.
But you
and
can't,
on our
he said you
Polaroids,
couldn't because the plane's expanded, he said.
I'm telling you my personal, so I've got
your
nothing to do with him.
Polaroids.
No, I'm saying we took Polaroid images from Concorde out the window on Concorde.
So
we
why
still
was
got
your
them.
Polaroid
I'm saying it's funny, I didn't see the curve that you saw.
Well, my wife saw and everybody else on the
your
plane
wife's
saw.
not here, my darling. Stop bringing your wife into the conversation. We're having a
Oh,
conversation
so now you're
with
putting
you.
me alive, so you can go
No,
away.
I don't need to go away. I'm stood here. I've got every... I'm disrespecting you because you're being condescending. Because you and your wife saw the curve, I'm not allowed to have seen it.
No, I didn't say you didn't see it.
I didn't see it, my dad didn't see it, my mum didn't see it. I can bring my parents into it who aren't here. All three of us never saw the curve, so can we move on?
I wouldn't see the curve.
Move on.
Right.
Move on.
And you agreed that I saw it.
I didn't say it.
No,
you didn't. I didn't hear you agree.
Okay, special on words, it's great. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying you... So what you said was, you don't know why I saw it.
I don't know why.
Then you said...
The only thing I can
hold on,
imagine...
then you said... It's because the window and the pressure in the plane made Concorde, that plastic bit with the hole, made me see it
I'm telling
round.
you, that's an explanation.
So why didn't she? She was
I'm
on the
saying
same
that's
plane
an
as me.
explanation.
Oh, that's an
Right?
explanation. You didn't know if that's the explanation.
No, I don't. I wasn't with you, was
okay.
I?
We can only talk from our first-hand experiences, can't we?
But you said all
you don't have a first-hand
you
experience.
said all planes have a little hole and they pressurise and that changes our perspective.
And this is
so
what's
the
so
horizon
interesting
goes
about
round.
first-hand
We've
experiences,
got
right?
people
Because everyone's
who say I've seen the curve from my seat in the plane.
I worldly respect everybody's point of view, including you and your Polaroid point of view.
Every time I fly,
Yeah.
I go and speak to the pilots.
Right.
Half the time I talk to them, they say, "Oh, I've seen a curve." The other half, they say, "I've never seen a curve."
So why do you think that half the world sees a curve and half doesn't then?
Well, because you know what?
Yeah, well said, flat ball.
Your view. Didn't really like her attitude.
I don't like yours either. The feeling's mutual. The feeling's absolutely mutual.
Calm down.
And I just wanted to have the last word. I didn't like him either.
When you get if you get
feeling was mutual, I didn't like. Well said, Oxbro. Classic example of cognitive dissonance.
So even though there are many accounts of people seeing the curvature of the Earth from Concorde and photographs, and no accounts at all, save for Roxanne's, of the Earth appearing flat, it's her victim that has the cognitive dissonance. I challenged Roxanne to produce these photos after I saw this. She said she would, but she never has. The only flat earther to have flown to nearly 60,000 feet and photographed it to show it was flat, and she has never produced these photographs. Doesn't that seem a little odd? Remember the troll from earlier who tried to teach Roxanne why satellites don't melt? In this clip he's back, and Roxanne knows he's going to be a challenge. So she completely invents some evidence to get rid of him.
Recently, a quantum physicist, and well, he's got quite a few credentials, to be honest with you. He's got a YouTube channel. What, pardon?
What's their name?
He lives in Worthing. His name's Dr. John Dennell. Okay, he's got more letters after his name than he's got for his name.
Okay.
Him and others like him, another guy in the States, has also taken an infrared image at sea level, okay, done to the scientific method. They've uploaded their content, they've done it to the scientific method, they put all of the information on there, it's done properly. The infrared image shows over 200 kilometers of distance via infrared across sea level.
Okay, well, infrared wavelengths are no different than...
Are you coming here next week?
I'd come here every week.
Perfect. Will you do me a favour? Just do me a favour. Will you have a look at the content? It's Dr. John D. Okay, his credentials are all on his channel.
Yeah,
but he's got a website. He's got. I'm just saying, quick pro quo.
Yes, of course I will, yes.
You could have a look and just tell me what you think of that.
Sorry. I will have a look, because it can't happen under normal conditions at sea level, right?
With an infrared lens, it can.
No, I mean, listen, I know about infrared.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. This is why I'm asking you, because you've got a camera.
Infrared is just a non-visible wavelength. It's
correct.
No different
but
form
it
of light.
reduces the atmospheric interference. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not using the right words. So
I am.
Don't quote me on that. But what I'm saying is, I can visibly see what he's depicting in his video as 200 kilometers away. And that's why I said you may as well watch the content and have a look at what he's saying. Me having that argument.
But these guys would, if I was showing that as a video to show the other side, immediately they would say it's faked.
No, but
because it's CGI.
Of course.
But your one, because it supports it.
But no, hold on. Can I finish?
Honestly,
the guy that I'm talking about is actually down in Selsey.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
He's asked people to come and view him doing this. He's asked people.
If he's
Wait.
a scientist, he should ask them to recreate the experiment.
He has
themselves.
done. That's why I'm asking you to go and look at his channel, because he has. He's put all of the documentation on there. He's told everyone his credentials and why it's important to do it to the scientific method. Him doing it once is no good. It has to be repeated and observed. So he has encouraged a lot of people to do that, and a lot of people have done it. We've got people in America, we've got people in Europe, in Greece, we've got people in Belgium, we've got people in Denmark, who have all repeated this test that he's done, and they have shown it to be accurate. So with that being said, could we pause that and have this conversation next week? Because there's no point in me talking any more about it. But Dr. John D, and if you go to his channel, he will then show you links for...
What university is he with, and where are his qualifications from?
For me, I'm not going to be able to recite that off my memory, which is why I'm saying I'm not shouting it. I'm not shouting it from the rooftops.
Ever so slightly sceptical.
That's fine.
About a quantum physicist with a YouTube channel talking about things.
Right. That's why I said you'd have to see it for yourself, because he's very reluctant.
I'd be laughed
He's extremely reluctant in making the content on YouTube in the first place.
All of that was entirely made up. There is no such observation at all on Dr. John D's channel. By the way, if you didn't know, Dr. John D is a flat earther who claims to have a PhD in spectrophotometry, not quantum physics. But he also tells us that pictures of Earth are round and not oblate like NASA tell us, and that Nathan Oakley taught him what the scientific method is. So my guess is, like Roxanne, he is yet another pathological liar. Back to Amsterdam railway station now. The Globalist Euro team are setting up their banners right outside, but so far no one has realised they are obstructing this tactile paving for the visually impaired. Now, of course, no decent person would want to deliberately block a pathway like this, would they? Note how many times Roxanne is told what the purpose of this tactile paving is.
Got a lot of people looking and the banners aren't even up yet. So I don't want to bombard everybody. Everybody's just kind of come to a standstill there to have a look. And obviously they should be able to find a language that they can understand. So far so good. However, you know what the police are like. Is everything alright? Everything okay? Everything okay?
No, not everything is okay.
Why?
This have to be free. This for blind people.
Okay, the police and the council, they've already been here and given us permission.
This is my project. This is for the blind people, this one.
Okay, can
They
you...
have to come from there to go to the station. That have to be free.
Huh?
You can go there.
We did discuss this with the police and they said it was fine.
Ma'am, I tell you because...
Okay, but can you get the police back here?
No, police. I had the same right.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'll get them back. I will get the officers to come back. They're just over there. I will call them back so they can tell me what they said.
Call them back.
Okay? But where we've been given permission by the police...
No, they can't give you permission for this. This is for the blind.
Yeah, they said that... Okay.
Ma'am, you don't want to listen to me. No, because
you're not being very...
No, because you say police say...
No, let's start again. Hello. Hi. Let's start again.
Hello,
Hi.
yes.
Hi. You don't need to do that with me, okay? You can be a nice person. I know you're in uniform. I will listen to what you're saying, but don't please talk down to me, okay? You're on camera. I'm streaming live on YouTube, so there are witnesses to this conversation. Just be nice. Like police.
I can tell you that have to be...
Colleagues
Okay,
nice,
look, they're doing this already. Yes?
We've been here for an hour. We've been here for an hour.
It doesn't matter for 1 hour or for 2 days.
Your colleagues have already been here.
It doesn't matter. They
Colleagues,
don't know that.
Hello, listen to me. Your colleagues with the same uniform also came after the police. We've had 2 ladies that came with the police. The police phoned the council phoned back the police told us we could be here. I really wish you would all talk to each other because your colleagues have already been told.
How long ago?
Okay. Yeah?
How long ago?
Within the last hour. Within the last hour. The 2 ladies, you know them, yeah? They work with you.
Hier is 96.
There's always one. But he's getting a bit rude, bro. Yeah, police are still not, well, they're not police, but the police are okay. It's the other people that aren't okay. So we're seeing what they're going to say now.
Oké, ik wacht rustig af. Anders heb ik een hele discussie met de mevrouw hier en dat wil ik liever vermijden.
Yeah, so we're not on the actual path itself. Yeah?
The colleague is coming here.
Yeah? The same one, yeah? Okay, it's not a problem. The police were okay. The police were fine. They just said, please don't obstruct this rigid bit because obviously the banner will cover up the ridges and people won't see the ridges.
Do you understand how important this is for blind people?
Why would you think... Please, sir,
Because
don't do that.
the discussion
Please
is...
don't make assumptions. I could have blind people in my family. Please don't do that. I'm not being rude to you, sir. Please don't get aggravated.
How much space you have there? You can go there also.
We did say that, but...
How much space you have? You can go there. You can go there.
Sir, would you like us to move there?
It doesn't have to be free, only this.
This is free.
This one.
I was going to say, if someone blind comes, I will personally take them myself.
Yeah, me too.
We naar de spullen hierover.
Listen, you know that they're not moving us. Sorry guys, I really didn't mean to come away from Jaren's conversation, but I saw the authorities looking for someone in charge and I know that I've already spoken to the police, so we're not getting moved by colleagues that haven't spoken to colleagues and think we're idiots. And he was getting a bit rude, I was like, stop. I said, stop, officer. But obviously we don't want the law to hamper our... I'll show you what the law are trying to tell us to do, okay? They're trying to tell us to go over there where no one is, okay? They want us to go over there where no one is and there's no footfall. And obviously we want to stay here, so...
Did those cops tell you couldn't be here or something?
I told them we are staying. Fine. They were hoping to speak to someone that didn't know what they were talking about, but then they got me.
In Roxanne's fantasy world, it's far more important that the people of Amsterdam get to learn the absurd nonsense that is on the team's banners than it is for people who have difficulty seeing to find their way into the railway station. Besides, the visually impaired don't deserve any kind of independence and will be eternally grateful that a random foreign moron has been laid on to personally guide them to where they want to go. A few weeks later, Roxanne recalls this event in an update show.
And everyone saw that day how you have to stand your ground with them to a certain degree, but we can argue our case. And it all boiled down to the track that the blind people follow. But they weren't going to say that. They just wanted to win the argument because it was about bravado stuff. It was about alpha male crap. You know, I'm telling you lot to pack up. You won't publicly say no to me. Now we'll make it about that instead of it about this.
Roxanne's dishonesty is truly jaw-dropping. Clearly, the whole interaction was all about her appearing to be some sort of flat earth warrior for her chat room. Her image in the community outranked everything else, including disabled access to a railway station. And she actually has the audacity to claim she wasn't told it was a path for the blind, when she was told this 4 times, discussed it with the guy, and even tried to play the victim by claiming she could have blind people in her family. There are a couple more aspects to Roxanne's argumentation we haven't covered yet. Her strategy is to demand that passing shoppers provide her with proof of a globe. Of course, not many passing shoppers are equipped for this task, but Roxanne has a strategy to deal with those that are. First, if they dare to mention a flat earth, ask about the edge, ask what the motivation for the lie might be, or ask any question or give any answer that Roxanne is vaguely familiar with, she dismisses it like this.
No, wait, stop. Program response. You're asking me program response after program response. I'm trying to go with you on this, but your program response is now telling you pizza dish is fake. And without you giving me a program response, why are people making such basic, silly programmed responses? I think it's pretty pre-programmed to look at this and say it's flat. Just how you're forming the questions alone shows me how programmed your responses are. No, but there's the program response. You understand? Why? How do we get there? It's the program responses. It has to be the program responses, Maggie.
She says that so often, it's almost as if it's a programmed response. If your answer is more than a couple of sentences long, it's dismissed as...
It sounds like a long story to me, my friend.
But that's science. That's the science.
That's the indoctrination. It sounds like a long story.
And Roxanne even objects to you thinking about your answer.
What's your main proof that space flight even exists?
Well,
your main proof, not what you've been taught. What's your why do you believe that?
I have to say it's because it's possible. It doesn't violate any laws of physics, so why should it be believable?
Do you know what I find worrying?
We also have the technological capacity.
What I find worrying is every single person I've asked that question to, do you know what they really do? Just what you did. They really ponder that thought. They're like, my main proof. Let me think. Can I finish? As a civilization, do you really think we should be reaching like that in 2018 for proof?
She completely ignored the content of the reply on the basis that the 3¼ seconds it took to respond was just too worrying. So what motivates Roxanne to inflict her arrogant ignorance on humanity?
I'm just taking your ball away from you. I'm doing what the Most High wants me to do and taking the ball away from you, which was given to you by man.
I don't know if to discuss.
So I just keep myself to the Most High, and I try not to put anything between me and the Most High, you know? You would have researched in some scriptures at some stage, no matter what religion you're in, to not hold on to false ideologies of any kind, whether it's a false god or a false belief. If you look at every religion's scriptures and you reverse them right back down to the original narrative, every scripture told every religion, don't put anything between you and the Most High. I'm not frightened about what it is. I'm scared that people live and die their whole life in a lie. Because what if you've lived a good life, innit? And what if you think, okay, I've repented for all of my sins, when I meet the Most High, everything's going to weigh up really good, everything's going to be good and proper, and then you get to the Most High and he's like, but you're holding on to that ball. Of course I'm holding on to the ball. We live on a planet, our access tonight. Bang. Biggest false idol given to man. You could repent all other sins and go to the Most High holding that, and he's going to go, you fucked up, man. You fucked up. You tried to do everything good and you held the one idol I told none of you lot to hold. The Most High.
Jesus Christ is God.
The Most High.
God came as man.
The Most
to
High.
show man.
Like all flat earthers these days, Roxanne is essentially a fundamentalist Christian, although of course she pretends not to be. Although to be fair to her, it isn't just Christianity that Roxanne is a fan of. Here she is with fellow flat earther Adam Meakin instructing a Muslim man on how to interpret the Quran, and advocating the teaching of Islamic fundamentalism in UK schools.
One for educational purposes and just for...
No, there is no globe for...
I've never seen that. I've only ever seen...
But even the space agencies don't use the globe, yeah?
I've never seen one.
Even the space agencies don't use it.
It's a toy, it's a prop, it's a model,
It's a prop.
isn't it?
It's an idol to worship that was given to us by man. Are you religious at all? Do you believe in God?
I'm Muslim.
Okay, so
do you
where in scriptures does
so
it
you don't
say?
believe
Let
the
me
Quran?
finish. In scriptures, I go to Speaker's Corner in London quite a lot, and so does my friend here. We speak to a lot of stationary, immovable pillars.
Well, the Quran also says that the universe is expanding.
Bruv, there's imams that go to Speaker's Corner. Imams go to Speaker's Corner. We've had lengthy conversations with imams that are on the same page as we are, that we've been indoctrinated with a false doctrine by man. And that doctrine by man is to keep us away from the Most High, bruv. Yeah? The Most High told us, do not put any idols given to us by man between the Most High and us. And what do you see everyone doing? Walking around that globe, believing in that globe more than they believe in the Most High. And every scripture states, don't put any false idol before me.
You're Muslim, yeah? Yes. So this is from the Quran, 15:19, yeah? And the earth we have spread out and placed therein firm hills, caused each singly to grow therein. Next verse. He who has made for you the earth like a carpet spread out, has enabled you to go about therein by roads and channels, and has sent down water from the sky. Now, if you believe your own scripture, or do you deny your own scripture?
Explanation of that on a globe.
So you're reinterpreting the Quran now?
Wow.
That's impressive.
That's deep,
That's
bruv.
impressive.
I've never seen a carpet look like a globe, bruv. That was quite a statement you made there. You're just saying you're reinterpreting the Quran, and you're saying maybe he means the carpet as in a globe.
I'll read it again, because maybe. He who has made for you the...
It out, normally, flat surface, yeah?
If Muhammad was going to give you a message,
he
he gives you a clear message. If he was describing a ball, he'd have described the ball, wouldn't he? He wouldn't have chosen something
like the Bible,
that is flat.
Like all of them.
To describe how God made the place, yeah?
But if space isn't real, why does the Quran also say that Allah has made
The Hebrews talk about the cosmos, bruv. The Hebrews talk about the cosmos within the design. Do you understand? But you see, the ministries of education have perverted the cosmos. Now we send our children to school to be taught about what has been made by God. The schools want to tell us better than the books, bruv. School wants to tell Muslim children better than the Quran can tell them. The Quran can tell them the truth, but the schools want to talk about a different cosmos. They want to talk about their cosmos, which is not this cosmos.
We're over the 1 hour mark now, and I've said most of what I needed to say. There is one more clip to come, but before that, like all her street activist friends, Roxanne has rarely had to deal with any serious challenge to her nutty beliefs, and she wallows in willful ignorance and intellectual dishonesty to avoid any challenges when they arise. Mostly, the Global Eye team are just gullible and ignorant. They parrot standard lines from the Flat Earth meme and Oakley catchphrases without ever checking to see if a single one is true. But as we have seen, some of the time they are flat out lying. They know they are lying, and they know that this cannot possibly have any useful effect if their goal is to spread truth. Their real motivation is to reinforce their own silly beliefs by catching out members of the public who are ill-equipped to respond to trick questions, silly word games, unreasonable, inconsistent and illogical standards of evidence, and plain old bullshit. Ignorance, willful ignorance, dishonesty and abject arrogance will never become socially acceptable, and flat earthers who behave like Roxanne deserve all the ridicule they get and more. Someone who puts on as much of a show as Roxanne deserves an encore, and of course no video about her would be complete without her now famous benevolent rant. Enjoy the last clip, and please rate, comment and subscribe.
Wow. Lisa's talking to a vicar. That's so cool. Okay. Cool. You alright, darling? No? Okay. Okay. We've got the vicar not happy about us being outside the church. Chat room want to chime in? Because we'll have a full-blown argument. I'll go for it. I'll bring you all into the argument. How about that? How about you all chime into this argument and we do we shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. So who's down? Who's down for putting in their 2 cents worth for why we shouldn't be moved from outside the church? Go for it.
Yeah, guys, take one of them?
No, thank you.
No,
thank
no?
you. And can you not record me?
That's
can
okay.
you turn that off, please? I need to have a word.
No, okay.
No.
No, that's fine. No, oh, excuse me, that's quite rude of you.
Yes, and this is
Is your friend always this rude?
Well, you've actually been incredibly rude.
Okay.
Because
may we now remove this?
Excuse me.
Because you
This is attached to our property.
Yeah, excuse me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Right, excuse me.
We're politely requesting.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
No, excuse me.
Thank you.
Look. Okay, but now you're touching my property now. If
could
that
you
comes
kindly
down
remove?
and injures somebody,
Could you kindly remove this, please?
The
Church of England has nothing to do with this.
So the church.
I know that.
The church is getting
Just,
upset. Which church do you belong to? This church?
Well, yes, this one. Okay. Which you.
And your name is?
My name's Reverend Graham.
Reverend Graham. Nice to meet you.
And
because I'd like to speak to you like just a normal.
No, I understand.
What's a human being to human being?
Absolutely, and I've heard the arguments.
Which arguments?
Well, all of them about the world is flat, and frankly, I'm
not claiming the world is flat.
Well, then
we
why
don't
does
live
it
on
say?
a globe. We're just asking for proof why you think that we live on a globe. That's all it is.
Because it's there. The proof is there.
Where? Where's this proof?
That
I've got to say something. I've got to say something. I've got to say something about the scriptures they read, man. They're own silly that they're doing this. I've got to. Not triggered or anything, guys. Don't worry. I'm not going to say anything silly.
No, but usually, if I can just explain.
Oh, please do. As long as I can explain as well.
Yeah, the organisations.
What seems to be the problem, sir? What seems to be the problem? What's up?
Could you kindly remove your property from our property? Dishinge that, and also remove the banners from our area here in front of the church.
Just the property.
Yeah, or your sign.
Why? Why is that?
Because you're attached to private.
Yeah, we'll get off the property. But other than that, what's the problem? Why are you so angry? Why are you so uppity about it?
We do not.
I thought you were benevolent. I thought you were benevolent, sir. Okay, but I can see the look in your eyes. That's not a benevolent look in your eyes. You know that. Okay.
Kindly just ask them to as
Can I ask you about your scriptures?
Thank you so much.
Your scriptures state fixed, stationary and immovable, sir. Sir, give me a benevolent answer to your scriptures. I read them myself. Yeah, I went to a Church of England school. It says fixed, stationary and immovable. We're coming off your railings. I'm trying to have a conversation. Didn't you smile and say hello in a very sarcastic voice? You're not very benevolent, sir. Don't you claim to be benevolent? Don't you claim to be benevolent? Don't want to answer the question, do you? You don't, do you? What's the issue? We're not going to move.
I'll call the police.
Fixed, stationary and immovable. I'll get the Bible out myself and start preaching it to you, sir. Felt the elbow there, Mr. Benevolent. I felt the elbow. And you're on camera. He's calling the police now, going back into the church to call the police. Going back into the church to call the police. Not very benevolent, sir. Where's the benevolency in you now? Oh dear. Look, shutting the door on me. Didn't want to answer to be benevolent. Hey, I thought people that worked in the churches were benevolent. I thought people that... Do we have another benevolent sir here? Good afternoon.
Can I suggest that you move
Good afternoon. Are you benevolent? Because your friend wasn't. Are you benevolent? You have a collar on.
I'm afraid towards this.
Sir, no. I'm not asking about the banners. I'm asking about to me. Can you have a conversation with me, please, sir? Can you look me in my eyes and have a conversation with me? Okay. Why did your friend misbehave the way he did?
Because
are you a man of the
church, ladies and gentlemen.
This
is the church.
You can't condone that kind of behaviour. That's
this is the church.
Disgusting to me. Elbowing me in my side.
This is the benevolent people.
You just did that and then shut the church door in my face. Your scriptures, sir, state fixed, stationary and immovable.
Do not quote scripture.
I'm afraid I have to because you're standing there with a collar quoting it at me.
I haven't quoted any scripture at you whatsoever. All I've asked you to do
non-benevolent,
is
non-benevolent.
to move your side.
You're not benevolent either.
That's all I've asked
Claiming
you
to be benevolent and you're not.
voice.
You're absolutely not being benevolent right now.
You've attached something to our railings.
Okay, and your friend elbowed me and called the police. He's on the
you're
phone.
Just here as provocators.
Would you tell your friend he was on camera doing that?
No, we've had great conversations all day. This is you provocating
All I
us.
did was ask you politely to move.
And we said no.
You're on camera the whole time doing this.
And
It's really bad, man. This is you've got a collar on and you're not being benevolent. You should at least, at bottom, the core of this should be benevolent. You should at least be open-minded to have a benevolent conversation with us, and you can't. You can't even bring yourself to do it. Look at your body language right now. I'm so ashamed of how you're behaving. You're absolutely breaking me right now. Absolutely breaking me. I went to a Church of England school and I haven't denounced it. And the way you're behaving at me right now, you've let me down incredibly. I hope you're proud of yourself. My God, you should be disgusted with yourself. I am now. You've let me down and you're not benevolent, and neither was your friend who elbowed me in the left-hand side of my rib and then shut the church door in my face, and you claim to be benevolent. Wow. Looks like charlatans still exist, everyone, and they wear collars. Wow. Wow. I'm done out here.